This video is sponsored by BetterHelp, which is perfect, seeing as how this Friday I have my very first appointment with a therapist. Yes, your girl is going to therapy, a sentence that I am both really proud to be saying, but also kind of embarrassed to be saying this late in the game in my life. But let me explain why. For a very long time, I just didn't know what I would talk about with a therapist. Number one, because I do invest so much time in therapeutic processes and mediums through my work. And number two, because I'm really close with my family. And so I've never felt like I don't have an opportunity to voice how I'm feeling or to work out things when I'm not feeling like I have all the answers. But what do you do when you're in a place where you can financially afford therapy and you realize that your family is probably the people that you should be talking to a therapist about? And since I know the advice I would give to all of you is talk to a licensed counselor, that's the advice that I am finally taking for myself. So if, like me, you're in a place where you realize you probably need that, I personally suggest you look into a service like BetterHelp for these 5 reasons. 1, there is a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's counselor network, which, depending on where you live, may not be locally available in your area. 2, BetterHelp is made with accessibility in mind, which means it all happens right through your phone. Find a counselor, set appointments for weekly video or phone calls, and even text updates to your counselor, all on the BetterHelp app. 3, BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed at any time. 4, BetterHelp is more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. And lastly, your girl can get you 10% off your entire first month of counseling with BetterHelp. To get this incredible offer, all you got to do is go down to the info box and click the link, or go to betterhelp.com/booty. That's betterhelp.com/BOODY, because that code is going to allow you to get 10% off your first month of counseling with BetterHelp. All right, so if you follow me on Instagram, you know that right now is a difficult time for me. I actually feel like I'm going through postpartum struggles right now, 8 months after Ryu was born. I don't want to say depression because I don't want to use that word lightly, but I do note that this has been unusually difficult and emotional time for me. And I couldn't really quite figure out why are all these things coming up for me now? And then it hit me. So Esther Perel has a brand new game that's called Where Should We Begin? And it's a conversation card game. I keep it in my kitchen, so once in a while I might just open the deck and then ask whoever's around whatever question I find. So I popped it one day and the question was, what is your role in your family? And I can't remember who was in the kitchen, and I asked and they answered, and then they asked me the question and I answered, and as I was talking I started really tearing up. So I excused myself to the bathroom and it just released so much. I cried for quite some time and I thought, there's something here. So I want to just say as a note, if you're a family member and you're watching this video, you're always welcome to my content, but I just want to put a massive caveat. I am not saying any of this to trigger a response out of you. And the reason why I think the best person for me to talk to about these feelings is, 1, just open air, just to hear myself speak and to share with all of you. But 2, furthermore, to a therapist, is because I don't want you to take on anything that I'm saying with guilt, with a sense of responsibility, or with an inclination that you need to come up with some kind of solution. Everything I'm experiencing, I know I'm just experiencing and I'm going through, and there is nothing at all that you have to do differently. But I acknowledge that the role that I have within my family has completely changed, and it has been changing for years now, but really, especially since October to now, it is 360 to what it was 3 years ago, and that is weighing on me. The biggest change, obviously, of the role that I play in my family is I now play the role of a mother, a role that we all know would come with changes and with exciting changes at that, but some hard ones. And the hard change that I have experienced that I didn't plan for is how much more fear, guilt, and shame that I would live with on a daily basis. I feel like as a mom, especially as a new mom, you are in a state of fight or flight almost constantly. You're always thinking about what could go wrong, what might be dangerous, what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing at that given moment. And it sits as this it's like a wave that's just hitting you against the throat all day long. I actually remember, because I'm an aunt of two incredible, young, awesome people, and I remember when my nephew was around 5 years old, something happened that I honestly replayed in my mind probably every day for years, and it's still to this day, if I think about it, it makes me really tear up and it makes me sad, because when you love somebody so much, the last thing that you want is for you to be the reason that harm comes to them. So I took my nephew in one of those wagons that you pull, and my parents live on a square, which means a street that you only drive on if you live on that street. So there's low traffic on the road. And I raced with my nephew in the wagon, and I pulled him behind me, and he was yelling like, faster, faster. And so I got up to full speed, and then I stopped and I huffed and puffed, and then I looked back and he was way in the middle of the road, like he had fallen out of the wagon, and I didn't notice. He was fine, but I just kept imagining, like, what if a car came? You know, like, what if he hit his head? Like, what if this? And again, like, that experience sat with me. And since I've had Ryu, I feel like I've had 5 of those. I feel like I've had so many of those moments that you're just not aware of how much danger you're putting this small person in who completely depends on you and completely trusts you. So that's a part of the fear, guilt, and shame that I'm really trying my best to learn how to cope with. So I don't live my life usually with this sense of fight or flight that's looming underneath the surface. So it's very atypical of me, and as a result, it's taking a big toll on my body. I have so many more gray hairs than I had before I gave birth, and I also started balding a little bit, which is normal for postpartum as well too, I should say that. But I do acknowledge that I have to find a way to manage this stress a little bit better. My mom assures me that it never goes away, because then your kids grow up and then they move countries and you don't know where they are. And then again, that fear always is there, but I have a sneaky suspicion, and if you're a parent, let me know. I have a suspicion that it gets better. And by suspicion, I mean a dream. Another way that my role in my family dynamic has completely shifted is I went from being selfish to self-full to now self-sacrificing, a place I do not plan to stay at. So let me walk through each of the various stages with you. I am the youngest in my family, and furthermore, I am what you see when you come to this channel. I'm all over the place, I'm sporadic, I am spontaneous, I am impulsive, and as a result, I just do, and I live, and I exist. And because I was the youngest, no one is depending on me to be the responsible one, and I never have been the responsible one. So I've always just been a very selfish person. Selfish meaning me first, in many cases me only. I do what I want, I do what works best for me. Now I'm part of a family dynamic, so I'm not an asshole about it, but I can admit to the fact that I probably didn't take on the responsibility, even in ways that I probably could have earlier on. I do believe that when I met Jared, I did transition, I did mature to become a more self-full person. Self-full because I have to ensure that I'm getting and maintaining my sense of self-esteem and integrity and joy, so that I have the ability to give to other people. And through my self-fullness, I think I found the best parts of who I am. I think I also improved all of my relationships, no duh. I think that was the place and the space that I experienced the most joy and could give the most joy. Now, as a new mom, I have gone through spans. Mind you, again, I have an 8-month-old baby. But this is how unwilling I am to be a self-sacrificing person. I have gone through a couple of months of being self-sacrificing, and I hate it. Self-sacrificing essentially means that I don't make time for self-care, that I don't feel like I'm getting to tend to what matters to me because I put myself second. Not just to Ryu, but to the home and to everybody who is in the home. And again, if you follow me on Instagram, you are aware that we have a house that has a constant revolving door. There's always people coming in, which means there are always people to clean up after, people to clean for, people to cook for, people to entertain. And as a result, I don't get to the things that matter to me. And I spent a lot of days going to bed thinking like, what did I do for myself today? What did I accomplish that was on my list? So I actually had a pretty big breakdown, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago at this point, where essentially my brother-in-law was staying with us, and Cray. So Cray is Jared's brother, who we hired really early on after Ryu was born to be like, we need help. Just because, again, we could spend our entire life cooking and cleaning alone. And because when we moved into a new house, there was so much housework to do, and we have a 1/4 acre of land here. So there's a lot that you could busy yourself a lot with just home maintenance stuff, and of course with the baby. So we hired Jared's brother just to come 9 to 5, just to help out. Like, he literally just comes, checks a to-do list, and like helps out. But he got sick and he was out for 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks coincided when my brother-in-law came. So we had a guest, I had less help, and then Ryu was going through sleep regression through that time. Not only did I feel like there wasn't enough hours in the day, I felt like I didn't have enough hands. I felt like I didn't have enough oxygen. I felt like I just didn't have enough me. And I had a night with Ryu where I was up with her. I actually took her because, again, we had a guest over and my brother-in-law was working too. So I felt really guilty when Ryu would cry in the night. And so one night she just would not go to sleep, and I felt like he could hear her. So I also think there's no point in both Jared and I not being able to sleep. So I just took Ryu and I went downstairs into my office and I closed the door and I just let her scream and cry it out for 4 hours. And during those 4 hours, I didn't react. I mean, I can't react. I just let her, I was just here for her. I just made sure she didn't bash her head against the wall or do anything dangerous. I just let her climb on top of me and spin and cry, and then climb on top of me and then pull my hair and spin and cry. And I just sat there like a statue for those hours. And I thought to myself, like, wow, I really kept it together, until the next day when I don't even know what triggered me, and it just started flowing out of me. And I called my mom and I just screamed into the pillow like, I need you here. I need you here. I need you here because I don't know if I'm doing this right. I need you here because I need help. I need you here because I need somebody who's here just for me. And Jared has to be here the same way that I am for the business and for Ryu and for the house and for the guests. And so as much as he is an incredible partner, he's also torn in a million places. And I just wanted someone to fly down to be like, I'm just here for you. So I just like begged my mom. I'm like, I know there's a pandemic happening and it is selfish and everything, but I just need you here. And she came. That to be said, that was a lesson for me of like, I don't know what I have to do in life. Mind you, this is all circumstantial. Again, like having somebody stay with us during a time when the person who helps us wasn't in or available to be in is a circumstantial stressor. And I acknowledge how privileged I am to even make the decision to say, like, I can't allow that what was happening to continue. Like, self-sacrificing me is just not the best me. It's not a high-functioning me, and I am fighting tooth and nail with every resource that I have to continue to be a self-full person rather than a self-sacrificing person, which I know is a battle that a lot of moms end up losing. But man, another way that my role has changed within my family dynamic is on the financial end. And this is like one of my greatest joys and also a crippling fear of mine, all at the same time. So again, if you're a family member watching this, please don't think that I'm saying this to make you feel bad or to make you feel like I don't feel good now being the person that I am in the family. So again, I went from being the youngest, least successful, least stable person to now being the opposite in my family. And as a result, we hired Jared's brother full-time. And now I hired my sister full-time. And my joy in life is to be able to treat my mom and dad, mostly my mom, because my dad very rarely allows it, but it is my joy to be my mom's sugar mama, and to buy her things and to spoil her and to get her whatever, she desires. And it makes me very aware that I can't afford to fail. For a long time, I wanted to succeed because I wanted to be great in the world, and I wanted to have an impact and a legacy, and I wanted to be a provider in my family and to be able to provide opportunities and to give back to them in the way that they've given to me for so many years. And now that I am that person, kind of all of a sudden, all at once, it is beautiful but also terrifying. And terrifying because I exist in an industry that is so fickle. So people needing me means that I desperately need you. And that's a lot of pressure to put on all of you as well. And I don't expect you to do anything with that. Again, I'm not saying this for any reason other than just communicating what I am going through, because that's what this YouTube channel is about. And Lauren, who is extremely successful and was extremely successful in her corporate job in Canada, leaving her job to come to LA to work with me was 1,000% my idea. I actually pressured her for years to do this, and now that it's finally happening, I am scared shitless that I will let her down. Lauren, this is not to say you should feel guilty. It's for me to tell you that I would feel like a failure and a letdown if I couldn't facilitate this opportunity for you, and the opportunity to give you an opportunity to build yourself up to the highest ability. And it's good fear. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the ability and the privilege to have such a fear, but it is still fear. The last change that I want to note, and this isn't about family dynamic, it's about my social dynamic, is mourning the loss of my single and free self. And I think it's actually really logical that I have to mourn it now, 8 months later, and I never really had to mourn it when I got pregnant or when I had Ryu because of the pandemic. So prior to maybe a month ago, people weren't going out, people weren't being social, people weren't going to events, people weren't going to conferences. So if I couldn't go to stuff, I didn't really feel the pain of it because nobody else was going either. But now that the world is opening back up and people are traveling and succeeding and doing cool things together socially, and I can't, I'm confronted with the feelings that are associated with that I just didn't have to look at for a long time. I feel like I, as a result, have a very negative relationship with social media that I know that I've got to put a handle on, because in essence, I'm so busy and torn all day long that when I do have moments to myself, they're 4 minutes at a time. And if you've got 4 minutes or 30 seconds, what are you gonna do? Open up social media and just scroll for a second. And every time I scroll, I feel less than, which I've never really experienced before. I mean, of course I've experienced it before, but I think before I might have been motivated by the less than-ness because I had the time and the ability to say, oh, if this person did this, let me spend tonight doing that. You know what, let me actually refocus myself, because seeing this and realizing I want that is informing me on what I should do going forward. But I just don't have the luxury of changing much about my life right now because another life is so dependent on me. So even if I do see someone doing something cool, there's nothing I can do about it because I can't participate in that cool thing with you. the Maya Angelou quote, which is like, you have to change your circumstances or your attitude. And because I can't change my circumstances right now, I definitely have to change my attitude. But moreover, I do have to change my habits around what I do during those 5 minutes of peace that I have. Because I am still happy for other people, and I am happy with my life. I'm just adjusting. Those of you who have followed me for a while know that one of the therapeutic processes that I gift myself with is quarterly. I put together a list of things that I love about myself, and I make it a short novel. And then I put together a list of things that I'm neutral about, things that I can't change, that I don't feel great about, but I don't feel bad about either. I just accept them as a part of the Boudram Brady lifestyle. And then I put a middle list of things that are bugging me, things that I actually can change or do something about, that I think about every day or once a week that are bothering me. And then I make an action plan to move things on that list either up into things I love or down into things that I accept. So I did my quarterly list the other day. I feel better. Thank you for being here and for listening. I started this video with the tide coming in on my throat, and now it feels like calm seas in my belly, just even saying that out loud. And I think in saying this, we can all agree that that appointment on Friday is definitely not one that I should be skipping. I'm looking forward to it. And if any of you want to examine this fascinating thing called life with a professional counselor securely online, please do yourself a favor and look into the sponsor of this video, BetterHelp, because they are a leader in online therapy. They have a network of 22,000 therapists available all over the world, and they're more affordable than traditional offline counseling. Plus, they have financial aid. And as I said at the top, I'm also offering 10% off your first month of counseling with BetterHelp when you go down to the info box and click that link, or go straight over to betterhelp.com/Booty. That's BetterHelp.com/BOODY, because that code is going to allow you to get 10% off your first month of counseling with BetterHelp.
Keep it on a high note. If you can't tell them fly.